Yeah, and just trying to keep us going there, brother.
Absolutely.
I got 42 questions in the hopper
Okay,
and
let's roll.
3 more hands raised. So, Steve, you've been patiently waiting. If you can, let's try to keep it quick so we can get to as much as we can in the next 50 minutes. And Steve, you can unmute.
Yeah, thanks, John.
welcome,
I'll
brother.
keep it as brief as I can, but I do have some things to say, so just bear with me, okay? I'm glad we're talking about the contract. I'm glad we're talking about pay. Nick, last time I talked to you on a national town hall, which was December 23rd, by the way, of last year. It was the last time you did this. We were talking about the
Was it that long?
It's a long time ago, bud.
I don't think it was that long ago.
It was.
Okay.
We were talking about the contract extension. I brought up the 3 regional polls, right? We don't need to rehash all of that.
Yeah.
But the Eastern, New England, Central region, all overwhelmingly didn't want a contract extension, right?
Yep.
You said that the election gave you the authority to use the Constitution to extend, that you didn't need the polls. This was your quote. It's in the video.
I'm not scared of anything I said, my brother.
Yeah. So my point to that would be, yes, you won the election. But let's talk about how you won the election, okay? What you campaigned on. On July 31st of 2024, you said that you have zero desire to extend the contract. Rich and Mick are painting me and Jamal as the candidates who do not want to negotiate, and that is categorically false. All right? Just let me get through it, Nick. You said, we know our members...
I feel like we're rehashing the election, but by all means, go ahead.
You said, we know our members want to negotiate. This is your words, all right? So if you recall in that conversation you and I had, you said that, you had thousands of people. Some people didn't want the extension, but so many also did want the extension. You said on July 31st, we know our members want to negotiate, okay? And that's why you ran aggressively on not extending, okay? You know this. We all know this.
But let's be clear about that component of it, Stephen.
Can I get through it, Nick, and then I'll let you answer it all, or do you want to just...
No, by all means. How many more quotes of mine do you have?
It's quick, bud. I got one more.
Go ahead.
You said if you vote us into office, we'll address pay increases immediately. And that was on August 10th, 2024. On August 12th, you talked about adjusting pay bands, increasing the June raise. You talked about longevity bonuses, Saturday differential, increasing CIC pay, tiered overtime. We all talked about this, right? So obviously when there's a candidate that is saying all these things, it's disingenuous now that you've won the election. You say that members expected this pot of gold at the end. We want everybody to give us all these things, and that's not a reality. Well, when you campaign so aggressively on all these wonderful, beautiful ideas, right? And then you get elected and you extend the contract, and then you tell us, well, nobody's trying to do anything. You understand where the anger comes from, that, yeah, sure, the election gave you the right, but then you immediately broke your core campaign promise. Now, I will say, to the point of your election giving the authority, I actually kind of disagree with that. I think Article 6, Section 2 of the Constitution, I think it depends on how you decide to interpret that, right? So I'll read it for those people who don't have the Constitution in front of them. Negotiated term agreements shall be sent to the effective membership for ratification. Ratification shall require majority.
I don't want to interrupt that point, Stephen. Hold on to that.
Hey, Nick, I muted Steve. Hold on a sec.
Hold on one second.
Just want to get...
We'll come back to that part, Stephen, here in just a second. So let's talk about, and I think there's a very simplistic answer of there's no world where NACA members don't want more, where we don't want to continue pursuing pay. Understand where the contract extension came from. At the time, we had no contract extension. We would be opening the contract in July of 2026. You would be losing 77 contract articles. We would not have those to trade. We would not have those to negotiate with. They would just disappear. And that's for all of our members that are out there. It would be gone. And we would not get them back. It's not like they get set aside. There's not a table for it. And that was something, once the runoff happened, looking at the political climates, all the polls are showing that Donald Trump is going to win. And it's very possible it's going to be a Republican White House and a Republican Senate. That should give us all pause to realize, okay, if that contract extension had never been offered to me by Administrator Whitaker, we wouldn't be talking about it. We'd be talking about what are we going to do when you don't get to negotiate a basic watch schedule. Management dictates your schedules. You don't get annual leave. It's only at their whim. That there is no longer a 2-hour timer position. And then all the realities that face. Where I campaigned on was that didn't exist. There was no contract extension. And if, again, this administration carves us out from the fair and complete right to bargain, we'd be doing all those things that I quoted and that I said in all of those videos. Those would be all the ideas that would be turned over to a contract team, and they would be going in to negotiate them. That isn't the way that it turned out. And if it ever presents itself, that will be the world that we chase after. In the meantime, we have to deal with the reality of today. Trump could have come in. Many believed that he would not come in and put those executive orders in place. So we protected from it, and yet he did. Okay, now that we're protected from it, how do we work from there? If we decide to open the contract, and we decide to open it in July of 2026 like originally, and the agency and us go, you know what, we'll burn 77 contract articles and move from there, then that becomes the reality as well. But in the meantime, we don't have to worry about horse trading those, or we can talk about how we use those contract provisions instead of just lose them because the agency knows they get them back in less than a year anyway. So that is the part that I think needs to be defined. You can listen, for you, that's the narrative that's being created. It's just false. It's not real. It was based on that there was no contract extension. We knew we'd be negotiating, and these are the things that we're going to pursue in it. Until the very day that Administrator Whitaker put it up, the realities faced itself and it made a decision from there inside of the Constitution, which now, by all means, please quote that part of it, Stephen, so that way that part of the conversation could be had.
Okay. So you want me to quote the Article 6, Section 2, which is negotiated term agreements shall be sent to the affected membership for ratification. Ratification shall require a majority of the votes cast. I honestly, Nick, I know you're going to have an answer for this. I'm putting that out there for membership, okay? In my opinion, and I've asked Mick Devine for interpretation on that. I know that he's going to pass it to the committee, and I'll get the official interpretation, which I'm sure is going to be what you're going to say, which is fine. In my opinion, that's being grossly misinterpreted by you and Paul to unilaterally extend contracts without membership approval. Let me just wrap it up, man. Let me get it all full circle for everything we've been talking about, because I know John's probably having an aneurysm. So we're talking about all these changes that are coming, the footprint, I mean, massive changes to our profession, okay? We're locked into this 13-year, what will be a 13-year contract, okay, which in labor CBAs is embarrassing to have a 13-year contract. It's not a good thing. And we're... the
wants a 13-year contract, Stephen. We all agree on that. Absolutely.
So the benefit, Nick, of having it expire, and I understand the threat to the articles, all this, that your point is that it forces us to have these negotiations, these conversations. Nobody's holding their breath for a limited reopener. We all know it's not coming. So what's going to happen is, I'm going to tell you, quote me now, all right? Here it comes. What's going to happen is we're going to continue working 6-day work weeks for the next 4 to 5 years while they quote unquote fix staffing. We're going to get nothing out of that. We're going to continue staffing the CIC position. And then they're going to have this massive change when it's time to update our contract, right? And we get nothing for these 5 years of holding the system together. Where what we should have immediately is, not yesterday, man, increase in OT pay, because that's what was keeping airplanes moving. Literally without OT pay, airplanes stop moving without controllers working overtime. And CIC, they want us to staff their supervisor positions for a penny on the dollar for what they're paying a supervisor to do it. Now, that's the immediate fixes, right? And I know the right opportunities are being created. Let me real quick.
Well, you keep saying real quick, so I'm going to break in. Inside of that, what you just said is, those are things that we all want. Like you said, now it would have to be negotiated. And that's the thing to keep in mind. We can convince ourselves of anything. And I completely agree with you, Stephen, that those are things that we should capitalize on, engage and talk about. It's, are we willing to do that and lose?
Do you understand the problem, Nick? When you say that, right? Okay, we can agree on that.
Hold on.
But you don't talk about it. With us.
Like we're literally, it's 8:20 at night on the East Coast.
Okay.
And we're talking about it. So these are the understandings of, once again, the realities that exist and the consequences to them. Choices and, oops, sorry, I hit my computer there. Choices and decisions have to be made for the betterment of our organization, for those we represent. And if we think, let's say we had a guarantee, Stephen, that we would get all those things. Okay, we could say, can we burn down schedules and annual leave and all the things that I've said many times for the very things that you said? That's not the reality. Those would be the arguments we present. But then we have to face, what do we ultimately agree on? Because many of our members that aren't here, that aren't as versed as you, and I know you're an area rep, and likely engaging in a level of negotiations, is in a negotiation, there are the things we want, and ultimately the things that we can agree on and need. Those agree on and need in most of your facilities, you say, hey, we should be on 410s. We think that these schedules would be advantageous, and here's why. We wanted 10 of them. We agreed on 5 of them because that was the best agreement that we could ultimately get to. That's negotiation. We got to keep that in mind. And what is the trade-off that we get for it? So I want to just level set that for all of our membership of these are the real conversation we have to have. I completely agree with everything of wanting more and the arguments for them. And now we have to continue capitalizing.
Here's my concern, Nick. The last point, John, I swear to God. Here's my concern, okay?
He's lying, but go ahead.
Yeah, I have the power of the mute button, and I'm holding you to it, Steve.
I got you, John. Here's my last one, all right?
All right.
So my concern, all right, when we're talking about how you're negotiating for these things, this last pay MOU that we discussed back in May, all right, you know how I feel about it. So the issue is we're the things we're agreeing to, in my opinion, are actively hurting what we're talking about are the goals of what we want. Because by agreeing to that, so NACA's position on, let's go with the age thing, okay? It's in the Constitution, right? Policy and position statement number 8, where they talk about how the studies show that the correlation between age and years of experience on the mental, physical, exhaustion, blah, blah, blah. Basically, NACA's stance is that, hey, older controllers are unsafe, right? We don't want, and that's why we don't want age waivers.
I wouldn't put it in your words. I'll leave it in the words of the Constitution, but you say...
I'm paraphrasing, dude. All right, you got it. So basically, we don't want age waivers, right? Because we don't want older controllers working. But then we do a pay MOU, right? That incentivizes retirement eligible controllers to keep working. So we're actively going against what in our own Constitution, our argument to not have age waivers. And then the other part of that MOU was for academy graduates. So it's a bad deal all around. We cut the legs out of our argument for age waivers, and then we're giving money to academy graduates at the cost of morale for 99% of the workforce. That 135 million, okay? You divide that up for all the controllers, there's a $10,000 bonus check. Does that solve everything? Does that make everybody happy? No, but it's a hell of a lot better than
So do you think there was the option by us to say, just divide it up and give it to all the controllers?
Nick, I wasn't in negotiations, man, right?
So look, and we'll pause there because again, I want to move on to others.
I got it. Thanks, John.
I know, listen, you clearly have a lot of passion. You're looking through the Constitution, which I love, and you're looking at it, is keeping people around that are 48 years old and 49 and 50, in 2 places that people retire are in year 1 of eligibility and year 3 of eligibility. None of those are saying keep old controllers and the words that you used and keeping them beyond age 50. Our stance was very clear. And it was actually working with Secretary Duffy to do just that because they wanted to keep people past age 56. If you remember, it was their position of the way and we'll solve the staffing crisis is just keep controllers and change the retirement age. So much so that Chairman Nels said it at my first hearing of why can't my buddy sit here, keep working airplanes, they can be in Congress or do other things. We'll just keep you all around. That was protecting our age 56 by saying, no, there's other ways that we can do that. And it's keep the 50-year-old, keep the 51-year-old, keep the 52-year-old, where they may be wanting to go in year 1 or year 3 of eligibility, which is approximately 50% of retirees, and keep them for another year because they are the ones that are going to train the next generation of air traffic controllers. And yes, we do need academy graduates. It was a very heavy concern of mine and remains today. If we were out to term negotiate, and again, we weren't stripped of our fair and complete right to negotiate, which that's the reality. There's an executive order that strips us of it, and we don't have that today. Well, I wanted to change and eliminate the academy graduate pay band. Again, another party has to agree to it and just go show up at your first developmental pay setting and give them an actual chance to get established and set up in a facility and focus on training, especially in these high cost areas of living, which is now the entire nation, given the economy and the resources that it is. So yes, could we put a way to where the administration's energy was putting push on the agency of getting people in the door and then not letting people leave, get to the agreement we could while trying to incentivize all. And that doesn't mean it's over. That was one agreement. And I can promise you this, given this administration, where 600,000 no longer have a collective bargaining agreement, 1 million aren't allowed to collect dues and be represented by unions, where AFG is now laying off a majority of their staff that represents a majority of government workers. And we're talking about more. That's a great thing. It doesn't solve our issues, but it means we are continuously in the game and continuously finding ways to do it. And getting that proposal out there for all the controllers, there was no world where they say, you figure out how much money we have, and that will then come in and say, you distribute it amongst the people. Hell, if I got to do that, then give me a pot of money every year, because the $30 million didn't cut it either under the CIP and moving from there. It's just like a basic watch schedule and annual leave agreement. You find where you can achieve the common ground, what you can get to, and with this administration, you don't step over a dollar. We can move as far as we can, show that we're the solution to it, and then say the controllers need to be recognized for that work, rewarded, and ultimately, if it doesn't happen, those term negotiations and looking at it in the future, they're not going to come back and say, "We'll remember that one time." We'll be putting up the arguments for now and then, not "well, once what once was," because we could do the same thing to the administration. So, in my tenure as the president, it's going to absolutely be find every way that we can put money in y'all's pockets, continue to push every button that we can, and not let this go into a world of just, I don't know, we'll hopefully wait and see, or we're willing to lose all of our contract articles today, where I still think we have opportunities to gain before we get to that, a very difficult decision. So again, that doesn't put money in our pockets right now. I know the realities that we still face, but I want our membership to understand you're in a time period in an era where everyone else is either losing a union, losing a contract, losing 4 people and only gaining 1. And we're sitting here talking about strategies to gain more. I'll put us up in front of everyone else that they'd rather be in our position than anyone else's, but that doesn't mean that this system, and I mean it when I go out and say, the system's being run on your back. It is. And absolutely, that's to create and show the very work that's being done. It doesn't have to be, overhyped or overstated, because it's real. And yes, the compensation for it, the incentives for it, should continue to grow with it. And if that hasn't happened in the past, I know I get to wear the sins of it as well. When we didn't do it under the most labor-friendly administration, this is where we are today. So I appreciate it. Thanks again for helping bring that conversation, Stephen, forward that is needed to be had, that we need to continue to have with our membership, and realizing you are being heard. It isn't easy times, and we have to figure out how we get through those. So, Murdoch, I think, you are still with me. I was trying to
Still
get
here. I'm recovered. Thanks, Steve. Aneurysm over. Appreciate you. It's all good. Appreciate the passion.